Stoltenberg calls on warring parties to revive truce efforts and end the conflict. Houthis mobilize troops and escalate in different areas. On International Teacher Day, Yemen faces education crisis due to the war. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rushan Fuad. The UN envoy to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, said the warring parties in Yemen should revive efforts to reach a broader agreement to end the devastating conflict. The envoy urged all parties to exercise restraint and allow the discussions that are running to bear fruit. He added that the two sides had failed to renew the truce because of the conflict over how to pay civil servant salaries. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation held the Iran-backed Houthi militia fully responsible for not extending the truce in Yemen. The organization urged the militia to engage in the political process, accusing them of obstructing the political solution, which confirms its belief in a military solution instead of a political one. In Ma'rib, the Houthis have escalated their attack on government position after the end of the truce, which ended in the 2nd of October, after the Houthis rejected the UN envoy's proposals to extend the truce in the country. More is in the following report.
Following 4 months of relative peace, the Balak front is witnessing rapid military escalation, and waves of violence are resurging. The lull in violence has revitalized the Iran-backed Houthis' incentive to fight. As if to make up for lost time, they have quickly mobilized combat elements, adopting lethal armory and launching 5 successive attacks in an attempt to advance along the eastern Balak front. Their attempts, however, have been thwarted.
Following the truce end, Houthis have launched a number of cannon and missile attacks against government forces. Thankfully, our troops were anticipating such attacks. They thwarted an incoming strikes and retaliated by destroying enemy elements, weaponry and tanks. The Houthis suffered dozens of casualties and therefore halted their strikes.
The Houthis have attacked government forces' positions in the hotspot of Ma'rib. Elements of the Houthis tried to infiltrate government forces' positions by advancing into Al-Balak fronts. However, the Houthis sustained heavy losses both in human and equipment. In the same context, the government forces' artillery destroyed several Houthi militia positions, where heavy machine guns were stationed. The next few days, according to observers, will decide where the crisis is headed. Battles erupted in many sites along Al-Jawf and Ma'rib fronts, killing dozens of militia members, while government forces lost a number of fighters when drones targeted their positions during field clashes on Ma'rib's southern fronts.
With the end of the ceasefire, Houthis attacked government positions and escalated their military operations. However, government forces fortified their defenses and they were able to retaliate.
The international truce provided the militias with ample opportunity to re-equip themselves military and economically. Despite the appeal for peace, everyone has their hands on the trigger.
The expiry of a 6-month ceasefire in Yemen has thrust the country back into war. International and regional powers have criticized the failure to further extend the truce, warning that lives of millions are at stake. More is in the following report.
The expiry of a 6-month ceasefire in Yemen has thrust the country back into the war. Charities have criticized the failure to extend the truce that was first agreed upon in April, and which they said had created hope for Yemenis. Oxfam's country director in Yemen, Firim Bouygues, said the end of the truce is terrible news for the people in Yemen. Millions will now be at risk if airstrikes, ground shelling and missile attacks resume. He added that the past 6 months have brought hope for Yemenis, who have seen a 60% decrease in casualties, a significant reduction in violence, more fuel imports, and much easier access to essential services and aid. In addition, fewer people have been forced from their homes. Before the deadline to extend the ceasefire, a coalition of 44 non-governmental organizations issued an appeal to the warring parties, citing the reduction in civilian casualties and saying that the reopening of Sana'a airport and the increased flow of fuel from Hodeida port had enabled Yemenis to more freely access healthcare, education and business opportunities. They said an extension to the ceasefire could also allow for the clearing of landmines, which have continued to kill and maim civilians, and for farmers to be worked. On the other hand, some Yemeni analysts said that the benefits of the truce had been exaggerated by the international organizations, as the Houthi rebels had refused to reopen routes needed to reach people in most need. They said that the truce should improve humanitarian conditions, but in reality it didn't. They think that every truce has been an opportunity for the rebels to mobilize and to recruit more fighters.
The following report will track the reasons behind failure to reach an extension of the truce.
In 2014, fighting broke out between the Houthi rebels supported by Iran and the government. According to the UN, the war has directly and indirectly resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people and has caused the biggest humanitarian disaster in history. But since April, a ceasefire meditated by the UN has significantly reduced violence and made it possible for certain actions to lessen the suffering of Yemenis. The UN Special Envoy proposed to extend the ceasefire for a further 6 months and expand it to new regions of agreement, but it was rejected by the Houthi rebels. It was initially intended to last 2 months, but after being extended twice, it ended up lasting almost half a year. Analysts predict further violence, particularly near Ma'rib, the last northern stronghold of the government and a crucial location for Yemen's oil resources, and Taiz, the third largest city in the nation that has been under rebel blockade since 2016. Director of the Sana'a Center for Strategic Studies stated that there is tension at the front lines but limited military battles so far. He continued by saying that violent clashes between Ma'rib and Taiz are expected to happen in the next days, maybe in an effort to get further concessions from the coalition. In addition, some observers believe the UN will try again to pursue the rebels to agree to another ceasefire. Analysts agree that the failure to extend the truce will have a negative impact on the Yemeni people. Millions are on the verge of starvation and thousands require emergency medical care that is not available in the country, which has been devastated by the war. Around 80% of Yemen's 30 million people rely on humanitarian aid. The renewed fighting will affect neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates through cross-border attacks. Yemenis have lost hope that the war can be ended diplomatically. Yet, the international community has to intensify efforts to solve the conflict in Yemen.
Along Yemen's coastline, UNDP's support to replace equipment and provide financial grants enables the re-establishment of a centuries-old industry, fisheries. Once Yemen's second most valuable export, after oil and gas, the blue economy has the potential to help rejuvenate the economy and provide a valuable food source to millions of food insecure Yemenis.
قبل ما نستلم الماكينة كان الوضع يعلم بهالله، بس كان الوضع متعب، ماكينة تعبانة، نسرح ونضوي، شغلك محصور. والآن الحمد لله بعد ما استلمت الماكينة ده العمل ريض وانا بت بعيد وقريب وانا مبسوط لي مطمن من المحرك اللي معي، انا عاطينا الامان كامل.
A recent report prepared by the Famine Early Warning Network revealed that high food prices are making many Yemenis unable to afford adequate food. The report prepared by the network of the World Food Programme indicated that half of the Yemeni population does not earn a regular salary. It warned that this situation increases the possibility of multiplying the suffering and the impact of any humanitarian disaster. Since the beginning of the conflict in March 2015, attacks on schools led to a devastating impact on Yemen's education system. Teachers, in addition, has been greatly affected due to the Houthi-driven war. The following report gives more details.
As teachers prepare students for the future, UNESCO proclaimed the 5th of October to be World Teachers' Day, celebrating the great step made for teachers around the globe. This day aims to raise awareness of the importance of the role played by teachers all over the world. They dedicate their lives, often for a very low salary, to making an impact on the way children learn and turn into adults. On their International Day, teachers are much appreciated and revered around the world. But in Yemen, they live amid different conditions, as the teacher has become homeless and struggling to survive after the Houthi militia looted teachers' salaries and made them easy prey to poverty, hunger, and the burdens of life.
On World Teachers' Day, we recall the importance of teachers' role in society, how it used to be and how it is right now. The teacher had the privilege of being honored according to what he presented to students. However, now they suffer cut off salaries due to war.
The belittling of teachers by the Houthi group was a major goal from first sight, as the militia began targeting the entire education sector in the country and sought to replace teachers with its members without the slightest experience, and kidnapped hundreds of them, all for the sake of implementing its destructive plan and spreading sectarian ideas uttered by Yemenis since the 1960s. For 8 years, the teachers in Yemen have been suffering from the bitterness of life, and the teacher has become among the displaced and forced to teach in areas controlled by the Houthi militia, which prompted thousands of them to leave the teaching profession and go out in search of a job to support their families, which negatively affected the educational process and its outcomes in the country.
We recall the brutal crimes of the Houthi militia against teachers on World Teachers' Day. Even one of the teachers had died out of torture, in addition to killing, abduction, torture, and looting of teachers by Houthis.
The reality of the teacher in Yemen remains a witness to the scourge brought by the war that affected all segments of life and targeted the basic building blocks of society. Today, the world celebrates the International Day of Teachers in honor of their role in building generations. But in Yemen, this day has become a luxury that teachers do not own after 8 years without salaries or even protection.
Coming next. People in Al Mahra celebrate the Amharic Language Day.
أبي ما في شارع 40 دحين أنا أشقى على أسرتي مع باقي اللي أنا أصرف عليهم كل شيء. أنا اسمي أنس رصيد سيف، عمري 12 سنة. أنا أشتغل بورشة حديد من الساعة 7 للساعة 6. أحيانا أسرع، أحيانا أقص، أحيانا أرنق، أحيانا أنقش، أي حاجة أنا أعمل. لا الساعة لما تبدأ الساعة 6 أوقف. أنا وقفت الدراسة عشان ما في أحد يشقى على أسرتي، أدرس أخواني الباقي منهم 4 وأنا الخامس. أحلم إن أفتح ورشة أبي وأشقى على أسرتي وأمدي لهم مصاري وأدرس أخوتي الآخر الجامعات وأطبخ أي شيء.
Welcome back. A government report revealed that 578 Yemeni families were displaced during the month of September from various governorates. The IDP's management unit said the total number of internally displaced people since the beginning of this year reached about 8,000 families, totaling about 44,000 individuals. To that end, Save the Children organization said the number of displaced people in Yemen decreased by 60% after signing the truce. It added that about 5,000 families were displaced in the first 3 months of this year, while more than 2,000 families were displaced from April to June this year. A breast cancer awareness campaign was launched in the governorates of Taiz and Hadramaut. The campaign aims at providing awareness programs about breast cancer to reduce its spread.
In Taiz, Al Amal Center for Cancer Treatment launched the Pink October campaign in coordination with the Office of Public Health and Population in the governorate. The campaign, which was launched today, aims to provide awareness programs in hospitals and girls' schools about breast cancer and early checkup to reduce the spread of cancer in Taiz, which tops the list of Yemeni governorates.
Today in Taiz Governorate, we launched a campaign in the Pink October by the Anti-Cancer National Center under the auspices of the Minister of Health and Taiz Governor. We are going to conduct awareness programs in hospitals and girls' schools. There is also the Pink October Clinic, which offers checkups for free for all women. To guarantee early diagnosis, reduce cancer cases, and raise recovery percentages, in which Taiz had the highest percentage of breast cancer in the Republic of Yemen, accounting for 15%.
The pain of cancer patients in Yemen is being compounded by the additional burden of conflict, displacement, widespread poverty, and hunger. Approximately 35,000 Yemenis currently suffer from cancer, and more than 11,000 are newly diagnosed with the disease every year. In 2016, many cancer clinics closed due to a lack of staff, medicines, and equipment, creating long waiting times and forcing people to travel many miles for vital treatment. As a result, thousands face an apparent death sentence through a lack of access to medical care. The Pink October came to spotlight the catastrophe of cancer in Yemen and how it is neglected by the concerned authorities, which worsened the case. However, we can't turn a blind eye to some attempts to alleviate the crisis, like Al Amal Center initiative, which end a ray of hope for Yemenis.
The 2nd of October of each year was chosen as Mahri Language Day, where celebrations and festivals are held as a way to introduce and preserve this language. More details are within the following report.
In this way, the Mahri Language Day was celebrated in all regions and districts of the Governorate of Al-Mahra over a whole week. Among great popular momentum and official presence, the celebration was officially announced 4 years ago.
On the 2nd of October, we celebrate the Mahri Language Day here at the Governorate in different ways. For example, this morning we celebrated in the schools with folkloric dances.
The celebration of Mahri Language Day in its 4th edition in the district of Qishm, the historical capital of Mahra, included artistic segments, traditional and folkloric performances, as it appears here in this distinctive simulation.
هي صراحة إذا رأيت الصح هي الهوية الأصلية لنا.
Frankly, this language is our identity, as it holds the name of our land, and we were named after it. We are all so proud of our language, even that there are some new entries nowadays that change the pronunciation of the language, yet our youth are keeping this language alive.
The Mahri language is hundreds of years old, and it's still present to this day among its speakers. Therefore, Al-Mahra appeared in many different forms of art and heritage, carrying in its features love and interest for a busy life and ancient history.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Hans Grumberg calls on warring parties to revive truce efforts and end the conflict. Houthis mobilize troops and escalate in different areas. On International Teacher Day, Yemen faces education crisis due to the war. This is the end of the news. See you soon.